Good evening, everyone. I'm Jake Tapper. Welcome to the special half hour of CNN Shutdown Showdown. We're coming to you live tonight from the nation's capital, the only city in America where you have to work this hard to get absolutely nothing accomplished. We're coming up on 48 hours since the government partially shut down, and if you are a furloughed government worker, do not bother setting your alarm tonight. This mess will not be any closer to a resolution when you wake up. You can be forgiven if you got your hopes up. Earlier tonight, the four top leaders in Congress went to the White House to meet with President Obama behind closed doors. So how did it go?
The president reiterated one more time tonight that he will not negotiate. We've got divided government. Democrats control the White House and the Senate. Republicans control the House. We sent 4 different proposals over to our Democrat colleagues in the Senate. They've rejected all of them.
I thought that they were concerned about the long-term fiscal affairs of this country. And we said, we are too. Let's talk about it. My friend John Boehner, I repeat, cannot take yes as an answer.
Okay, then. A GOP congressional source told our own Dana Bash that the meeting only involved the principals, no staffers. There was no talk of any potential compromises for this specific fight, period. The president demanded a clean continuing resolution to reopen the government as soon as possible, complete with funding for Obamacare. Speaker Boehner's response, not going to happen. So, is it time for a grand bargain to put the nation's fiscal house in order? There are whispers of that on the Hill tonight, but what would that even look like? Well, let's bring in Republican Congressman Devin Nunes of California, who, as you just heard, has been pretty critical of his own party's strategy here, and 2 of CNN's finest who have been covering the story, Chief Political Analyst Gloria Borger and Chief Congressional Correspondent Dana Bash. Congressman Nunes, I want to start with you. Obviously, you're not a supporter of Obamacare in particular, but why would you call your fellow Republicans lemmings with suicide vests? What's the issue here?
Well, thank you for having me on. A few months ago, back in my district and in Washington, I started hearing this strategy that was laid out that shut down the government, don't fund Obamacare, and don't stop until Obamacare is ended. And I thought from the beginning that that was really couldn't be done. And it's really just a matter of math. Right, because
you don't have the Senate and you don't have the White House.
Right, and you would need technically, and it's not even, what some of my constituents were saying, well, we only need 5 senators. Well, as the folks here in Washington know, you need 60 votes just to end debate, and it took 60 votes to implement Obamacare. And I just don't think as long as there's a guy named Obama in the White House that you're going to get rid of Obamacare without a veto. So assuming that you got the 60 votes, assuming President Obama vetoed the bill, which he would, you then need 67 votes in the United States Senate and 290 votes in the House. So it's just a matter of math. It was a silly strategy from the beginning. And, this whole lemming issue came up because one of my colleagues, who I was having a direct conversation with, decided to leak it outside of the room and walked out, and they asked me about it. So that's how it got out public.
But you said it, right? I mean, lemmings.
You think it's bad for the Republican Party?
Yeah, well, it's crazy. I don't understand the whole point, the whole strategy. Most Americans don't understand it. But look, I have supported it. I will support our leadership because part of this problem in this whole group that I referred to, this has been ongoing for 3 years, where they've continued to block our leadership for 3 years to get 218 votes.
The Lemming Caucus, you're talking about Tea Party caucus.
Well, it's not Tea Party caucus, no. Not at all. It's a Lemming Caucus. It's guys who meet privately. They're always conspiring. It's mostly just about power, and it's just gotten us nowhere.
But if that's the case, and if they're lemmings, and if you actually understand simple math, that you can't get this done, then why not be more aggressive? I mean, I know that there's sort of a growing number of people like you who want to have pass a clean bill to fund the government and just move on.
A clear majority of the Republican Party in the House, right?
It seems that way. So why not put your vote where your mouth is?
Well, because well, first of all, you have to vote on what's in front of you.
But why not get John Boehner can put whatever he wants in front of you?
So if you want to do that and start bringing down rules, basically, is what you're talking about. You're talking about doing the same thing that got us in this mess in the first place. So the leadership made a decision to take the position that we are going to take the Ted Cruz strategy, and we are not going to fund the government until we get rid of Obama.
Why do you think Boehner did that? I mean, his original inclination back last spring was, we're not going to do that.
He said in March exactly what you said. Exactly, the votes aren't there.
Right.
It doesn't make sense. We'll keep voting against Obamacare, but we're not going to shut down.
Exactly. So then why the change of mind?
Because we had a majority of Republicans who had went home and gave some indication to their constituents that there was some way to get rid of Obamacare by not funding the government. That's why this happened. And I have a responsibility to tell the truth to my constituents, and that's what I've been doing.
And you, again, just to reiterate, you would like to repeal Obamacare.
Well, I mean, I've been one of the leaders on health care, and I think that's actually one of the problems in the Congress right now, especially with this Cruz strategy, is that I would have respect for people if they were coming up with solutions to our nation's health care problems. Because if really the problem is debt, and people are worried about Obamacare because we're going to go bankrupt and we have $17 trillion in debt, you guys know all the talking points. Mm-hmm. But it's true, we have a debt problem. But the debt problem was here before Obamacare. Obamacare made it much worse by throwing more people onto Medicaid, and Medicare is going broke for our seniors. So some of us, myself, Senator Coburn, Paul Ryan, we did with Senator Burr, we actually put out where every American would, a plan that every American would have health care. Every American would have health care. And, now all of a sudden, people are attacking me for being for Obamacare. I don't think so.
Can I just ask you, you said you're obviously upset with the strategy. You think that John Boehner was forced into this, which, let's face it, I think he was. Mm-hmm. Candidly, are you supporting John Boehner in the strategy because if he relents, he's toast?
No, I think it's this.
I mean, honestly, you really don't think so?
For 3 years, we had problems getting 218 votes. So John Boehner said, okay, we'll take this Ted Cruz strategy. You guys went out for 2 months. You made these commitments. We'll take it. We'll implement it. And now here we are. It's fully implemented.
But you could pass this with bipartisan support. Why not, if you know that the votes are there with Republicans and Democrats, why not say to the Speaker, put this on the floor, get bipartisan support, have it passed that way, and move on?
Because you still have Republicans in our caucus who believe that if we continue down this path and we stay firm and tight, that Harry Reid and President Obama are going to relent, and we're going to be able to...
Do you believe that at all?
Absolutely not. I don't believe that.
Let's talk about Ted Cruz for 1 second, just because you raised him, because the House is following a strategy a lot of people feel that Senator Ted Cruz, Republican of Texas, suggested. Because Dana and Gloria, you guys have been doing some reporting. There was a meeting today of Republicans in the Senate, and a lot of Ted Cruz's colleagues, I think, are even less happy with him than you sound.
Well, they handed it to him. I was told that they were meeting, and that most Republican senators, I was told by a Republican source in the room, spoke out against him. And this is what one source said to me. Cruz was completely unapologetic about the ads that he is featured in on the Senate Conservatives Fund website that attack other Republicans. That's what they're mad about. He sees himself as the only truly pure Republican. His colleagues are furious. He has no successful strategy, but has managed to generate grassroots support.
That's a Republican senator who told you that?
Right.
But here's the thing. A Republican senator who told you that anonymously. He wouldn't give his or her name, and this seems to be one of the issues.
But within this meeting.
No, but I'm just saying, the people in this town, I hear a lot of Republicans who are willing to criticize Ted Cruz. I'm not talking about you, obviously, because you just did it on TV, but who are willing to criticize Ted Cruz, but not put their name to it.
I think you'll see more and more, actually.
Yeah, but there's a reason for that. You know this. There's a reason for that. The reason that they're not willing to put their name to it is because they don't want to get a primary. He is incredibly powerful and popular.
How does that happen,
Am I wrong?
by the way?
I mean, you were just talking about the fact that you heard it back home this summer.
Yeah, look, I think Ted Cruz is one of the best politicians that's come around in a long time. He's able to rally the base. He's got a lot of money that he's generated. There's a lot of consultants making money off of this, and there's lots of TV ads going on. The problem with it is, it's not one thing to be good at politics, it's another thing to be not good at strategy.
Why are you not worried about getting primaried?
Well, look, my whole career, I made a career of just being honest with constituents, trying to come up with solutions to America's problems, and putting them out there and trying to explain those to my constituents and trying to work on those issues.
What do you think of this piecemeal strategy that the House Republicans have had, which is refund the government,
but go after the parts that we put on TV,
piece by piece, by what?
So you're not going after kids with cancer,
so the cuts
Veterans Affairs, the parks, so you have the World War II veterans.
Take away all the unpopular cuts. But
as much as we think, well, no, I think this is, now that we have made the jump, set ourselves on fire and made the jump, we are in the valley of death. We decided to go into the valley We have to run together. We have to stay together in order to fight the onslaught that's coming from the White House.
We're mixing our metaphors
No,
here.
but that doesn't that seem crazy?
So,
Wait a minute. We're in the valley of death. We jumped.
No, but doesn't it seem crazy that you're calling it setting yourself on fire in the valley of death, and you're running on fire in the valley of death voluntarily just to stick together? If you don't think it's the right thing to do.
You don't have 218 votes in the House.
But you do.
But Dana keeps saying you do, right?
No. If the Republican Party does not hold 218 votes in the House, we have nothing. And that's what this group, the small group in the House, has been blocking us for 3 years, and I am not going to be like them.
How many Republicans, how many of your fellow House Republicans do you think agree with you?
200.
Really? I mean, a lot of people have been coming up to you and saying, attaboy, or I agree with you.
Look, nobody likes to criticize fellow Republicans, especially myself, but this is a case where somebody decided to leak, private conversations, and so I was forced to basically come out and defend myself.
And tell what you really believe to be the truth. So what does this do to the Republican Party? I mean, here you are kind of split open in public, disagreeing. You say you have 200 votes to do something they're not going to do.
Well, the key was we should have had this fight on the debt ceiling, not on the CR, not on the appropriations bill.
Not on funding the government.
Not on funding the government, right. So especially, even if you were going to do it on funding the government, you don't pick the same day that Obamacare is rolled out.
Yeah.
Because one thing that we know about this White House, and we know about Harry Reid in the Senate, is they're going to use everything that we give them, which is they're going to easily say, well, the reason we're having these problems is because the Republicans shut the government down.
Stick around. Stay there. Nobody go anywhere. We're going to take a very quick break coming up. If the president made it clear that there will be no negotiating while the government is shut down, where do Republicans go from here? We will continue our discussion with Congressman Nunes coming up next. Welcome back to CNN's special coverage of the government shutdown. I'm Jake Tapper. We're almost into day 3 of the standoff now. The good news, both sides actually met at the White House this evening. The bad news, all they seemingly did was butt heads. Many right-wing Republicans seem to have all their chips on delaying Obamacare if they can't defund it outright. But President Obama, along with his liberal allies in the Senate, well, they refuse to fold. And they're not playing with House money. They're playing with yours. So does Congress have an end game here? Do they even know how to end it? Let's bring back in Republican Congressman Devin Nunes of California, along with our own Gloria Borger and Dana Bash. Interesting quote I wanted to read you, Congressman, from your colleague, Representative Marlin Stutzman of Indiana. He's quoted in the Washington Examiner talking about the end game, saying, quote, "We're not going to be disrespected. We have to get something out of this, and I don't know what that even is." Now, you are not Congressman Stutzman, so I can't hold you accountable for this, but that is not a very encouraging sign.
Well, Congressman Stutzman is a very good guy and a friend of mine. And I think this is part of the problem that some of us identified months ago, because there was no end game to this strategy. There was no way once you got to shutdown mode and you didn't have the votes, which we never had the votes, then what were you going to do? I think we had the moral high ground to fight on the individual mandate. Had we made that case and spent all this money and time and effort saying, how come you're giving employers a break and not giving individuals a break, since Obamacare is obviously not ready to go prime time? I think we would have had some folks on our side. But instead, with all of this politicization and personal politics where you're attacking other Republicans, it's for where we're at now.
Can I ask you, what is it like on the floor of the House now, on the Republican side, where you're calling your colleagues lemmings? I don't know, are there any specific ones that you're talking about? Yeah,
so look, first off, it's important to be fair here. The Democrats are giddy about this behind closed doors. I mean, they think that this is going to give Nancy Pelosi back the gavel. They are very cocky. They're very confident. I assume they're just looking at polling information, and they want to continue down this. They want to keep the government shut down as long as they can, and they're encouraging our folks to do it.
You think Democrats want to keep the government shut down?
Politically, absolutely. I mean, they tell me.
You all have been...
Democratic congressmen have said keep the shutdown going.
Yes.
Okay, so what about on
that to you?
Yeah.
Well, and when you
tongue in cheek, right? I mean, they're not
tongue in cheek, but I mean, look, Democrats believe in big government, no question.
Right.
But this is benefiting them politically.
So can I get back to the Republican, like you're on your side of the, like how bad is it? And who are the lemmings that you're talking about? And are you talking to them?
No, I mean, there's nothing really to talk about. This is their strategy. We're giving them every opportunity.
Who's they, though? I mean, who is they?
I mean, look, you have to first look to the people who went against the Speaker on the House floor to start out the Congress. I mean, that's the first group, right? So
Dana would tell us.
Right out of the gate.
For him to say it.
There was 200. You know, we needed 218 votes, and there was an attempt there to basically wound the leadership.
And that was a worse coup attempt almost than was reported at the time.
Well,
right?
But here's why. And here's why. Every Republican has a chance to run for Speaker or for leader of the Republican Party, and there's a whole set of offices. They never challenged Speaker Boehner. They never challenged Leader Cantor. They don't do anything. And then they were meeting privately to create this spectacle on the House floor. They never vote for anything. And I disagree with the leadership a lot, but you know, I don't go out and publicly embarrass our entire conference at the beginning of a conference, and that's what happened, you know, back in January.
And, you know, and to your point about the Democrats right now, to be fair, if you look at the votes over the past 2 days since you started this piecemeal approach, you guys have been united. Even people like you who don't agree with the strategy, you've stuck with your leadership for better or worse. Democrats have lost 20, 30 votes on these.
Although not enough to put it over.
Not enough to put it over. But here I want to ask you, since we're being so candid and open and honest here at whatever time it is, what's Speaker Boehner like behind the scenes right now as he tries to sort of hold it together?
And I'll help you out. You only have about 15 seconds.
Well, look, Speaker Boehner is one of the way you see him in public is exactly how he is in private, and he's a good guy. And it's sad that a lot of folks have been attacking him when he is right now the leader, been voted on unanimously in our conference, but folks like to beat him up, and it's just unhelpful.
Congressman, we thank you for your candor this evening and being honest and open with the American people. Thank you so much. We'll be right back. Stay with us. That is it for Shutdown. Thanks for watching. I'm Jake Tapper with Gloria Borger and Dana Bash. Please join me tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern for The Lead. Crossfire starts right after this.